The Trump administration is using authoritarian tactics to incite fear and chaos in our communities. Why? So they can further weaponize the government to exert control and suppress dissent. Let's look at Los Angeles. Heavily armed, masked agents conducted military-style raids at places like Home Depot's, a donut shop, and a clothing wholesaler. These are purposely inflammatory tactics meant to escalate violence and justify further violations of our constitutional rights and our civil liberties. And these kidnappings are targeting mothers, children, and law-abiding neighbors who have contributed to our communities for years and have complied with the court's requirements, attending check-in appointments when asked to do so. Do you know why I can tell you this with confidence? Because that's what's happening in Chicago. ICE texted law-abiding members of our community for unscheduled check-ins and were told that within days they had to present themselves for a check-in. When they showed up, many of them mothers, their case was immediately dismissed, followed by ICE agents waiting for them at the door to handcuff them, put them in freight elevators, and rush them out in order to shove them into vans while wearing masks. Can you imagine if that was happening to one of your family members? They're using text messages to call people in to arrest the exact immigrants who are demonstrating their commitment to the law by complying with ICE's instructions. To me, that runs counter to every claim the Trump administration has made, but it is consistent with reporting that the administration's actual intent is to simply maximize arrest. For this administration, let me be very clear. The terror is the point. They are kidnapping people. They're tearing families apart. They're deporting United States citizens, including United States citizen children with cancer. They're ignoring our right to due process, and in doing so are making mistakes, they call administrative errors, as they arrest and deport people. Just last week, DHS had to return a Guatemalan man wrongfully deported to Mexico, despite fearing he would be persecuted there. And they finally returned Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States, who now faces what could be trumped-up charges. We've all heard about the others disappeared to a prison in El Salvador based on allegations of being in a gang, including André Hernandez Romero, a gay makeup artist who legally arrived to the United States the way many others have for generations seeking asylum. The only so-called evidence this administration has given of him being in a gang is tattoos of his parents' names with crowns. But this administration's obsession with persecuting immigrants and achieving their mass deportation means they're using every resource they can, instead of keeping our communities safe, to terrorize them. We're seeing the CBP and law enforcement agencies like FBI, DEA, and ATF focus on rounding up law-abiding contributing immigrants in their communities. The message sent to our communities through these actions are, the Trump administration does not care if you're complying with the law because they don't respect the rule of law. They don't care if you have constitutional rights because, let's be honest, they don't respect the Constitution. They only care about the arbitrary deportation quotas that have been set by who? Stephen Miller. Not only are these officers not doing the jobs they were hired to do, like pursuing child abusers, investigating sex trafficking, or weapon smuggling, they are terrorizing our communities while wearing masks. You know who else wears masks? People committing crimes, executioners, prison guards in CCOT, Klansmen, people who don't want to be held accountable for what they do because they know their actions violate the foundations of our shared humanity. So yeah, we need oversight of this administration. And the most urgent need is to rein in the abuses of power that make all of us less safe all over this country. Today, let me be clear. They're violating immigrants' constitutional rights. They're stripping our communities of due process, and they're seeking to separate us from our humanity. But here's what's happening. They are testing our limits now because they intend to use the same playbook next on anyone they deem undesirable. This committee's responsibility is to oversight, not to the President of the United States of America. With that, I yield back.